What's up everyone, Dan here, Crypto Capital Venture, December 11th, 2018. In this video, we're going to look at Bitcoin. We're going to check out the charts. I'm going to give you even a short-term, not prediction, but something I'm kind of leaning towards in anticipation. Might not happen, but based on the analysis that I've done and what I'm watching, I could totally see this happening, and I want to kind of throw it out there to you because I know that's why you're scouring through YouTube looking at these Bitcoin videos. To start this video, I do want to say something, and I'll start off with this tweet. Everyone's waiting for bottom or a bottom bounce. Chances are we'll be forming the bottom for months. Build something and accumulate, or you'll become negative and antsy like 80% of social crypto right now. I tweeted that a few days ago, mainly because the negativity that comes through my phone, whether on YouTube or Twitter, is insane lately. And maybe you might not get the brunt of it if you're not, running a YouTube channel or active on Twitter. But trust me, I'm telling you, there's a lot of negativity in that. And you can really take that data alone and help with, a certain data point in terms of sentiment. But let's start. Let's talk about the charts, right? The general scheme of things, which is to say, based on that tweet, I think patience is the best thing you can have right now. And this is why, because I do think that the bottom is being formed. So there may be a lot of volatility in that, and there also might be a lot of time involved in that. So if you can find a way to be patient, that's good. So let's start on the weekly zoomed out chart. We always like to do that, whether zoomed out on the daily or the weekly. And let's just get an idea, right? Just a quick reference point for long-term where Bitcoin is. I do want to point something out. You see this bottom trend line, this yellow one, is really the one I've been using. And it's the one I like most. The problem with it, I will say, is the starting point of this bottom trend line, very, very difficult in terms of if you look at these weekly candles where they're wicking down to, very difficult to form or to really have a starting point for a trend line. I just kind of cut it right through the middle and I ran it to where this weekly candle at the true bottom of the bear market went to in 2015. And then from there, it's kind of trending upwards, right? And we actually don't even have a true second touch. That's why we have this bottom support area right now, in this area of around $1,900, $2,000. There is definitely a lot of divisiveness in terms of how do you draw a trend line. Some people like to, use a close of a bar, right? Whether it's a weekly, daily, 4-hour, whatever it is. And some people like to use the wick, the end of the wick of a bar. So just for reference, what I did was I took a white line. You can see this white line right here. And you can see we have a close here. So we started there. We have another close here, so that's a second touch. And now we have this trend line continuing. And right now you see the difference between that yellow trend line and this trend line is, a good, I don't know, $900 or so. So I think no matter how you draw your trend lines, I would say this little area right here is a good potential of support for a longer term support, right? So whether we go to 1200, whether we find support at around 2000, I think we have that general support range for a bottom trend line. Now, we've known this all year long. That's what's crazy about it, right? We've definitely visited this exact chart when we were at, a $14,000 Bitcoin, right? In this long-term uptrend, we visited this chart. But when anybody was visiting this chart, we weren't really anticipating such a strong move towards this bottom area, right? Nobody was. Obviously, everybody was very bullish on Bitcoin at the time. CNBC bullish, analysts bullish, everybody bullish. We're going to $50,000 by the end of the year. And nobody was really talking about the downside to visit this bottom trend line. But I assure you, this bottom trend line has been there. It's been there all through this entire move. So that's something we should take into consideration. The data hasn't changed, right? This long-term channel, this long-term upward channel of Bitcoin hasn't changed. So let's pivot now to the daily chart and really talk about, my thoughts on where Bitcoin is right now in terms of what might happen next. So My biggest thing is this. We had like really good structure in place, right? Kind of leading up until this break below $6,000 right around here, right? We had this structure, and you can zoom out on the daily chart real quick and you can see it, right? It's kind of like this descending triangle type of structure. And I'm not going to draw it too perfectly because I want to zoom back in. But you see the structure there. But what happened was we broke $6,000 right here. We broke it. And now Bitcoin is like in this weird free fall type of move. And there's really no structure. And so what I'm wondering is what is Bitcoin going to do that's going to create structure? And it will happen. And it could happen in multiple ways. But in this video, what I want to talk about is how do I think it will happen? So the way that I think it will happen is this. I'm going to use Fibonacci a little bit. We know we use Fibonacci a lot on the daily chart and the 4-hour chart for finding supports and resistance. And I think we have a nice little setup to provide some context for Fibonacci. And we're also going to look at the momentum oscillators to really play into that storyline of what Bitcoin might do next. So first off, Bitcoin broke $6,000, okay? Let's just take this step by step. Bitcoin breaks 6,000 right there, and we're kind of just free falling. Obviously, it looks different on the 4-hour, but right now we're on the daily chart. But Bitcoin free falling, we see a little bit of support like right in this area right here with a short-term bounce and back down. So that's like our first point of potential structure happening. And this is where the Fibonacci, in my opinion, becomes valuable to begin using. And so what you do is you take this first area support here, you find where did that bounce up to? Where did we pull back up to? And you use that as your first reference point in terms of Fibonacci. So we take that from a swing high, we take it to the next swing low, which was, 4 or 5 days ago, to around $3,200. And we say, okay, we have a Fibonacci in place, and you know that I love the 618 to 786 channel, but Bitcoin is extremely volatile right now. We're really going to use the 786 line to look at, I guess you could say. So let's draw that 786 line is right there, and let's get rid of the Fibonacci so we have some clarity on the charts. So support, swing high, swing low. Next move for Bitcoin, the question on my mind is potential uptrend to visit the 786 around $4,200. So just so you have some context to that, $4,200 from where we are right now would be around a bounce of 20 to 22%. So I know that sounds extremely bullish, but given the volatility of Bitcoin and given this structure that needs to be formed for Bitcoin, it's a true possibility in my mind. And we're going to look at some things that play into that possibility. And then we're going to talk about, well, if that happens, what does that mean for Bitcoin? We will talk about that briefly. So here's the daily chart. There's some momentum oscillators we can use in telling this story of revisiting $4,200, a 20% gain in the market, right? So right now, the first thing we want to look at is the stock RSI, this quicker moving momentum oscillator. Is there room? Have we been in that overbought area for a while? We haven't. There's plenty of room for Bitcoin on the stock RSI in terms of the momentum. And then in terms of the daily RSI, right? We're in that oversold area. So we could go lower. Things can get extremely ugly. However, there is so much upside for Bitcoin right now. Even if it decided that the bottom is formed and we enter a bull market, it would make sense based on the RSI. However, if this bear market will form its bottom over the next few months, we can be in this oversold area for a while. However, there's definite potential for a short-term bounce on the RSI. And then the MACD, you can see kind of fighting its way on the MACD, right? Bitcoin, as we mentioned, kind of forming its first mini little bottom in the end of November, is been working its way back up. You can see it crossed the signal line once, tested it again, the MACD line crossed it again, and now we're in this upward move. We have the histogram above zero with a little stronger momentum than the last cross above the signal line. So right now, what I'm saying is, in terms of momentum oscillators, in terms of the charts, Bitcoin can totally see a short-term bounce right now. And so my resistance area for a bounce like that, or my target area, would be around $4,200. Now let's look at this on the 4-hour. So on the 4-hour, we have, you know, considering this December 7th bottom that we're using for Fibonacci, and I'm actually going to put the Fibonacci on the 4-hour just so you can have reference real quick. We have the Fibonacci from this, remember, we have this recent support that we bounced off of to a swing high, down to a swing low the other day, and then we have our 786 line right here at around $4,200. So that's the same thing on the 4-hour. So right now, after Bitcoin has formed its shorter term bottom the other day on December 7th, we have kind of this, you know, these higher lows in formation. And this is one of the first things I'll be looking out for. Will this continue right now, even on the very short term? How are we going to play out with these 4-hour candles forming right now? Are we going to have a bounce? And then are we, more importantly, going to break this most recent higher high? Are we going to break that with a new higher high within this wedge? And are we going to form, you know, somewhat of another rising wedge with a breakout to the $4,200 area? That's what I'm looking at right now. It's fun for me to do this. I like to find structure in Bitcoin, especially because it's forming its bottom. But I want to throw this caution out to you. This isn't me saying like we're forming the bottom now and we're going to start moving up now. When I say we're forming the bottom, let's zoom out on the daily chart, is I'm saying something like this, where we're forming the bottom and we're going to have a lot of volatility. And even if that means we get this revisit to 42, there's a strong possibility that we bounce off of it, and we might even see a lower low than this previous low. We might test 3,000 after going up to $4,200, and these moves can continue for a while, right? And it's just something that we all have to be prepared for. Maybe final bottom in February, March, you know, spring, early summer, I don't know. But this is the type of bottom that I think we all should be patient for, which is to say a longer, drawn out bottom of speculation, people going crazy, people are exiting the markets, you know, shorts having a field day with testing levels at 3,000 or even in the $2,500 range. But at the end of the day, we can always come back to the zoomed out weekly chart and say, okay, this is normal for the cycle of Bitcoin, right? This is what Bitcoin does. It's what other markets do. So right now, those are like kind of my short-term, I guess, predictions, I guess, if you want to call it that. But, you know, I thought it was important to at least put out there what I'm looking for, what I'm looking at. I'm really curious to see if we make a move to $4,200. I could upload this video and we could tank to $3,000, right? That's just the name of the game. But I really wanted to put out there what I have on my own personal charts on TradingView, whether that's on mobile or on the desktop app, and that's kind of what I have. But you can see Bitcoin, when it's formed its bottom years ago, it did a very similar type of thing. It formed its first touch. We had a nice bounce. We came back down, came back up, and it was just all over the place until we had this final capitulation, and then we bounced from there into the bull market, or at least approached that bull market, right? So those are my thoughts, at least for today. I figured I just wanted to get out a nice strong technical analysis video for you. And we'll track things this week, and we'll track this entire bear market. I'm not going anywhere. Let me know how you're making out there. Are you holding? Are you being patient? Are you accumulating? Are you building anything? Let me know. Really curious. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. I'd love to have you as part of the channel. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you watching. Have an awesome night. I will see you in the next video. and God bless.